Hello and welcome back to the week of Payday, everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my trip to Stockholm, Sweden to play Payday 3 early and also get to meet a whole bunch of the Overkill and Starbreeze team. It was genuinely an amazing trip and I've been looking forward to making this particular video all week because I just want to be able to put all my thoughts in order, if I'm honest with you, because I don't think I've quite processed everything that happened while we were in Sweden. So I thought it'd be really cool to sit down, go through everything that happened across the 3 days, one of them being the biggest one because it was the Payday 3 day, and just give my overall thoughts and share some of my favourite bits about the holiday, share some fun stories, that kind of thing. So let's get right into it, shall we? I haven't really got much of a structure for this. I'm just going to use my Google Photos as a bit of a direction to remind me what to talk about. So I've got literally an entire photo album in front of me, and don't worry, I'll put loads of pictures up on the screen as I'm talking because I took loads in the Starbreeze office in particular, and I got clearance to use all of them as long as they were in the lobby. Anything beyond the lobby and it was bit of a secret, but you know. Anyway, so let's go through the context. So I didn't know this was happening until about a week, I think, before we ended up going. It was quite a quick turnaround following the Payday 3 marketing kicking off, mainly probably because they were keeping literally everything under wraps, as you all know, because there was about 5 months where they said nothing, and I may have made a video about it, but once the marketing campaign kicked off with the Xbox trailer and then getting the FAQ and things, everything starts to ramp up, and then about a day or so later, we got a message in the partner server telling us there was a possibility to come to Sweden to play Payday 3 early. So they tried to arrange it with as many partners as they could. Unfortunately, with it being quite short notice for some of the further abroad partners, not all of them could make it over. I know there were a few that wanted to that couldn't spin it in time. But myself, the Noli, Marina Top Hat, Pippa Stealth, and Mortifer all managed to make the trip over to Sweden, while everyone else played Payday 3 from home. So there was a bit of a trade-off almost. People wondering how the other partners got to play. If you couldn't make it to Sweden to play the game in the offices, they give you the chance to play it in your own time, in your own space, and give you a code that basically lasts for longer. So instead of going to Sweden, you would play Payday 3 for longer, basically. So that was the trade-off for anyone wondering. But for me, it was just honestly brilliant going to Sweden, not just because it was nice to visit a new place, but I've not been on a plane for 15 years. So it was really nice to go somewhere abroad and not just do like an in-country holiday. It was a nice change of pace, and it's kind of bit me a little bit with the travelling bug, so I'm quite keen to do more of it, I think. It'll be a really nice thing. So at the start of the week on Monday, Tuesday, 19th, 20th of June, it was all about just kind of getting everything together, trying to get some videos set up. Unfortunately for me, I couldn't manage that because I had a problem with my ears that I've mentioned already. I basically couldn't hear out of one of them. So on the Tuesday, I literally had to have an emergency appointment booked to have my ears sorted to make sure I could put headphones on when I was in Sweden. So that was a fun bit of holiday prep that I didn't really see coming. And that's why, as I've said before, there wasn't much in the way of videos that week while I was there. But I think I've more than made up for that this week. But we flew out to Stockholm on Wednesday, the 21st of June, or at least I did personally. I came across with Marina Top Hat. We both flew out of Manchester Airport because, you know, he's based around Sheffield, I'm based by Liverpool, so it made sense for us to go together. Of course, I'm going to include the typical vloggers bit of footage of the plane taking off and in the air because who doesn't do that? It's a bit of a convention at this point, right? But we had a nice, simple, no-change flight over to Stockholm and landed there in the early afternoon. Met up with Noli immediately at the airport and then went straight over to our hotel. Which, by the way, just to mention to that fact, in case anyone is hearing that and wondering, oh, have I been paid for my opinion as well? There's been a couple of people getting stuff for that, especially Noli and Mario. Just to clarify, we were paid for the flight and the accommodation. We weren't paid for our opinion. They set up everything and paid for everything so we could get to Sweden to play it in office and share what we thought of the game, good and bad. It's just that the game was really good and we generally didn't have much to say that was critical of it. But we checked into the hotel and then Wednesday the day was completely free because Pippa wasn't getting in until about 10 o'clock at night and Mortifer wasn't getting in until 10 in the morning the next day, and he was going to be going straight to the office basically on the Thursday. So myself, Noli and Mario, the three British boys, or as Mario called us, the Payday 3, but the three of us just explored Stockholm, and I gotta say, as a city, Stockholm is absolutely beautiful. It's a lovely place, the people there are really nice, and the weather was good as well, which was quite a nice, a lucky break. It was nice to see everything being nice and sunny, and just enjoying the kind of culture, I suppose. Like for me personally, when I've been abroad, the thing I've liked the most is absorbing like different cultures and just getting to explore and seeing what's new in a place. I know some people go for like the food or for other reasons. I'm the fussiest eater in existence, and you'll get an example of that later on. So for me, it's the idea of just exploring, getting to wander the streets and seeing what there is to offer in a city. That's what really attracts me, and doing it in Stockholm really makes me want to do it in other places now. So, and honestly, it was just really nice for like the three, I suppose, I don't want to say this in an egotistical way, but for like the three big British Payday YouTubers, for all of us to hang out together and chat about Payday and also just kind of get to know each other in person a bit better was really lovely. I've met Mario once before, just over a year ago, and we planned to meet up again since, but I'd never met Noli in person, nor had Mario, so it was a nice opportunity for us to all get to hang out, have a good bit of a chat, and spend the day wandering Stockholm, and we did. We had a bit of of a wander around, nipped into a couple of shops here and there. I went into a record shop myself because I love shopping for vinyl. That's something I really, really enjoy, and it was just nice to kind of see that in a different setting almost. You know, even though record shops probably look the same pretty much anywhere, it's nice to just be in one in a different country. But then it came towards the evening, we got some food. I ended up going to Pizza Hut, which I know people are going to mock at and point a finger at, but look, I am literally the most fussy person in existence, and I knew the next day, on Thursday, with myself, the partners, and some of the Overkill people were all going to go to a restaurant together, and I was kind of like, it's probably going to be something that I'm not going to be a major fan of, so I want to go somewhere I'm comfortable with on the Wednesday before I kind of go out of my comfort zone and try something new on the Thursday, which I thought made sense personally. But I did say to them they could go somewhere else, but we wanted to stay together as a group, so I do appreciate them hanging out, so that was good. But I did also reach out to Liz, Tainted Tally, who is the community manager at Starbreeze, and said to her we were going to Pizza Hut, and if she wanted to say hi, she could swing by, and she ended up sitting with us for the whole time we were in there, which was really lovely. So I got some pictures there of Mario trying to feed some pizza crust to Noli, just with him unwittingly knowing, but it was just really sweet, you know, whether it was some big adventurous restaurant or not. Obviously it wasn't. It was just nice to kind of sit in a slightly familiar setting in a new place. It's like I said, I like having some creature comforts, but also trying some new things. I'm good at finding a balance there. I know not everyone's like that and they always want to explore new things, and that's totally fair, but that was just how I'd felt personally. And I really enjoyed just getting that precursor ahead of time with a couple of people that I knew all together that I'd never met in the same room before, and just hanging out. Like I said, Liz is a friend of mine, and it was nice to actually get to meet her in person as well after everything that she's done with the partner program and putting this whole thing together, which, you know, I'm going to keep singing her praises throughout this, but Liz is the orchestrator behind all of this trip. She set up everything. Without her, it genuinely wouldn't have happened. And as I said on Monday's video, Starbreeze, you need to give her a raise because she deserves it. She ran the whole thing and she did it fantastically. She really, really did. But after the food, Liz went back home. The rest of us went out for a couple of drinks. I went back home a little bit earlier than Noli and Mario because I'm not the biggest fan of the drinking scene and then being in kind of bar settings. They suggested going somewhere a bit quieter, but I didn't want to move them to somewhere new and they'd already compromised to Pizza. That felt a bit unfair. So I wanted to make sure that they could have a bit of a drink where they wanted to. And I also really wanted to watch Secret Invasion because I'm a massive nerd. Like it isn't obvious already. So I went back to the hotel, watched that, went to bed. So it was a really, really good first day in a new place. And like I said, after 15 years, it was just really exciting to be somewhere new and getting that time to wander Stockholm and explore it, which, by the way, I didn't explore nearly enough of it. I'd looked on the map of Stockholm and there's like almost a north and south section. There's loads of water around the city, but there's almost like a middle bit from the map. And I didn't even explore any of the southern area, which I really hate. There's plenty more I would have loved to have gone around there. So genuinely, even if it's not for a Starbreeze trip, I honestly could see myself going back to Stockholm and just exploring it more, because it was just so much fun to go around. It really, really was. I know we also knew at the time we probably wouldn't have much chance to do that on Thursday or Friday, and lo and behold, we didn't. So Wednesday was kind of like the sightseeing day, which was lovely. I really, really enjoyed it. But now let's get to the day you all want to hear about, which is Thursday, the Starbreeze Studios day. Now, they'd given us a little bit of a schedule ahead of time, which was kind of a rough thing. It wasn't necessarily going to be completely followed. Also, members of staff were and weren't there at the times they'd said, so it was kind of more of a loose adaptation. Just getting to play Payday 3, seeing a few presentations from developers, something from Almir as well, which was brilliant, and just basically getting to spend the day absorbing everything in the studio. That was the main point of it. Now, as some of you will know, I've been very keen to interview Almir Listo for about the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years at this point. Really wants to sit down with him and get to talk to him because he's the unofficial face of Starbreeze. Everyone knows him more than most people, I would argue, and I thought it'd be really good for a bit of content. So I'd made that known to them before, and they'd said, you know, we'll see if we can get some time in for interviews on the day. Should be manageable in between playing Payday 3 and that kind of thing. So what I did was I went into the studios a little bit early to jot down some questions and get a bit ahead of time, so I knew what I was going to ask if the opportunity did rise up for a proper full interview. Because I wasn't sure how it was all going to go, and I thought it's best to play it safe to see if we do land it, that I've got questions ready. But I was also told while I was there that Andreas would possibly be available for an interview, so I was just sat in the office at about 10 in the morning writing down a whole bunch of questions. But because I got in before the other partners, I also had free reins to take loads of photos of the lobby without anything kicking off, without anyone going into different rooms and me following them around. It was just kind of a chance to go photography mode and take pictures of everything. So I'm going to go through a whole bunch of photos now that you'll be able to see. Liz also handed me the Dallas mask. I'm not sure if it's like the Payday 3 sculpt, but it's like the most modern one they had apparently. And she let me put that on for a photo, which I thought was very cool. So thanks for that, Liz, and for taking the picture. It's probably going to be the thumbnail for all being realistic here. But it was just a really, really cool little lobby, which I didn't think I'd be saying about a lobby of an office, but like just having a giant Payday 3 standee that was taller than anyone in there, seeing just like some of the masks, seeing some Payday money, which I do have next to me down here. They had some stacks of Payday money. Now, I've wanted some of these for literally years because I've seen certain content creators get given them for different things, or they were given out a Payday Con, I believe, back when that was still a thing, but I never managed to get my hand on any of them. So they had basically a big pile that was probably 5 times as big as this, and they just handed them out to partners and went, right, take as much as you want. So when I was there earlier, I didn't take many pieces because I didn't want to take them from everyone, but once they started giving them round and people were taking big stacks, I was like, well, I'm going to take some as well. So I have some Payday dollars now. Very cool. I need to think about where to put them in my room. Definitely something I need to do. I think I'll put one in a frame, like Mr. Krabs' first dollar. Actually, yeah, we'll leave that in shot. Look at that. That looks good. Looks very good. Let's leave that there. We also got given partner goodie bags, so I may as well show those off now while I'm on the topic. So the goodie bag came in this tote bag here, you can see, which has the 4 main masks on. Very, very, very cool. And it came with a couple of little things. It was going to come with a mug, a pen, a lanyard, and a notebook. Now, I say it was going to because, unfortunately, what they've done is they've done a whole bunch of press events before us. The partners were the last people to get their hands on the game before the press embargo would lift on the Monday this week. But unfortunately, they hadn't done enough notebooks to match with the goodie bags, so none of the partners managed to get a notebook in the bags they were given. So we had mugs, which are these things here. Again, the 4 mask pattern. Very, very, very cool. One of the coolest mugs I've seen in a while in terms of the actual quality of it. It's a really good one. But we also got given Payday 3 pens, you can see here. So it's got a nice little Payday 3 logo on it. Like it very much. And then also we had the press lanyard, which you have seen in the interview with Andreas and also the interview with Almir. I was wearing this because I just thought it was really cool to wear. And also, again, the 4 mask pattern on the lanyard. There you go. Very, very, very cool. I like that a lot. It was just cool to be able to sit and chat. I was just having a bit of a conversation with Liz, writing down some interview questions, and a couple of people from the Starbreeze offices swung by while I was there before we kind of kicked off properly, including the CEO, Tobias Hergren, which I believe I'm pronouncing right, apparently, or at least very close to right, so I'm glad that my Swedish isn't completely terrible, or at least my pronunciation isn't. Didn't get any photos with him. I really, really meant to. I think I just assumed I was going to see him again later in the day and then didn't ask while I was there that morning, but it is what it is. It was lovely to get to see him in person because I've already interviewed him and had a couple of message exchanges with him over the last couple of years. And he really is a lovely guy, Tobias. He's a genuinely lovely guy. But that speaks to a wider thing that I just want to say in general, which is that the staff at Starbreeze Studios were all such lovely people, regardless of whether they knew who the partners were or which partners, maybe they knew some and not others, whatever it may have been. Every single person that I spoke to was so lovely and down to earth and welcoming and just would chat to you. And it was a lovely, lovely vibe. It really was. And there weren't even tons of people in because it was in the middle of midsummer, which is a big holiday in Sweden. So the day that we went in, a lot of people were working from home, and basically that meant that not loads of people were in the office, but there were quite a few still, and it was nice just getting to chat with a whole bunch of them, including a special shout out to Nico, who I didn't get a photo with, really wish I had, but he came out to me in the middle of getting set up for the Payday 3 stuff as some of the partners were showing up, and he just sat down next to me and went, "Hi, I'm Nico." He went, "What do you think of the Payday 3 reveal trailer?" And I said to him, I was like, "Oh, it was really good." Didn't like the quality on stream because it just looked quite bad on there, but the trailer itself was really, really good. And then he went, "Okay, thanks, because I made it." Imagine if I'd said I didn't like it. So that was quite funny. But he was one of the loveliest people in the office. He was so nice to chat to, and he also was almost like fanboying about my videos, which was almost a little odd because I was like, never really spoken to someone who's said so much about my content before, so that was really sweet. But he's also been really good to me since with helping me with the content, because with the Andreas and Almir interviews, the audio on both of them had some very rough air conditioning in the background that made it sound very echoey and has ruined a lot of the bass levels in it, and he has fixed Andreas' interview, and he's going to be looking at Almir's for me as well shortly. He's been an absolute angel. I really cannot thank him enough for everything that he's done, because he's made the content look so much better as well. But once I've taken all my notes down in here, which I could reveal to you, but that would then spoil the Almir interview, so I can't say anything there. Shush. What happened was I then went into the offices with the partners and we had a presentation from Almir. That was what kicked it all off properly. We had a bit from Liz, who kind of introduced us to the press stuff, and then Almir came in and did a presentation about Payday 3, which was quite funny because it was designed more for the press anyway, so it was kind of explaining a bit about Payday as a franchise as well. But it was just lovely to see Almir in his element, talking through everything Payday 3 related. It was really, really cool to see. Once he'd done that, it was all hands on deck, playing Payday 3. Now, we had a bit of an explanation as to how the game differed a bit. Andreas came in at that point. He showcased a bit about how to play it, about some of like the kind of changes in between Payday 2 and 3, so the stealth mechanics, that kind of thing. It was at that point, like I mentioned on Monday, he showed us putting a camera on a civilian's back and the civilian running away. So he gave us a bit of information about that and did a bit of a Q&A with us, just kind of some rough questions, asked him a bit about consoles. And after that, we got straight in. Now, the machines that we had, I've got some pictures of us on the PCs, each of the partners. I'll have to blur the screens out because the menus are not publicly available, despite what some leaks may be showing right now. I'm not touching on anything that is not officially revealed, purely because we're getting a lot of official news as it is, and I know that things will be revealed in due course, so whenever they do, don't worry, I'll talk about them. But the machines they had in there, let me tell you, were absolute monsters. They had like i9 processors and I think 4080 graphics cards. Is that the highest one? I don't know what resolution the monitors were at. They were either 1440p or 4K. It might have been 4K to be honest, but we managed to pull 3-figure frame rates right the way through playing, which was absolutely amazing. It was a great way to get like first hands with the game. But at that point, we all dived into Payday 3 and we all started playing it, and it was absolutely brilliant just getting to dive in. I played myself with Mortifer and 2 of the devs, whilst Mario, Noli, Pippa, and Elizabeth, and also one of the other devs jumped in at one point swapping out with Elizabeth. We played in our own separate 4-team lobbies, had a bit of a playthrough, had some fun, and just getting to play in that environment and get absorbed in the game was a really fun first time. It wasn't just on my own and trying to figure things out. You had devs talking you through with it, which I really enjoyed. It was nice to get some extra information while I was playing. And I still had this notebook open with me, which, by the way, just to show you a little bit, because I have already talked about these things. So I've got like all sorts of information about the game that I took from presentations, and a lot of this was written down while I was playing. So this is all the stuff that made Monday's video. So I was sat there playing the game, and occasionally when I was either downed or in between heists, I was just scribbling down notes with the Payday pen, just going, right, know about this, know about this, know about this, which was very, very fun to do. But after playing Payday 3 for roughly half an hour to an hour, Andreas popped in and said that he was going to be going shortly, and said that if I wanted to interview him, now was the time. I'd mentioned a little bit more than the other partners because I really am big on like the interviewing side of things for video content, that I wanted to make sure I could interview whoever I could. And Andreas basically said, I've got about 20 minutes. If you want to do an interview quickly, we'll do it, and then I'll have to go. So I paused Payday 3, came straight out with Andreas, and we filmed the interview that you've seen on Tuesday, which was just like, he is such a lovely guy. And as I said in the interview, I've kind of seen him on Overkill things for the last 5 or 6 years via the console updates, then moving on to Payday 3, seeing him have a lead role there. The dude is so down to earth and lovely. I tried to put some of the outtakes in just to show you just how lovely he was. He's such a nice guy, and it was such a blast to chat to him. I wish that I'd have more chance to sit down with him and ask him even more questions, because there's plenty more I could have asked him, but I honestly, I'm just grateful for what I had. It's what I said to like the partners. I was like, you know, I don't know what's going to go on with the interviews, but whatever I get, I'm going to be grateful for. I'm going to go for whatever I have, because it'll make for good content regardless, and whatever you can ask them is going to be fun for people to watch, I would have hoped. And judging from the response in the Andreas interview, you all really enjoyed it, which I greatly appreciate. So that was just so much fun to set up and to record. But I don't need to say much else about that, because you've seen the video by this point, no doubt. And if you haven't, I'll leave it linked on screen now so you can go and watch that after this, because it was just a fantastic thing to record. And so by the time I was done with the interview with Andreas, it was getting towards the mid to late afternoon, and we had a specific timetable of when there was going to be a studio tour, then getting food, that kind of thing. Now, I'd already had a bit of a look around the studio in the morning with Liz. She kind of showed me a couple of things because I was in early anyway, but the chance arose to get the interview with Almir whilst the studio tour was happening, just before the live stream was happening, because at 5 o'clock Swedish time, Almir does his Payday live streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and this was a Thursday. He poked his head around the door a few times, asked us what we thought of the game, and there was a great one of him with Mario that I know he shared in his own video that was just such a funny picture of having him kind of looking down on Mario playing the game, which was brilliant. But he was going to go and dash off, but he managed to make a little bit of time to sit down with me for the interview just before he did the live stream. It meant that I missed the studio tour, getting a proper look around of everything in there. But honestly, I got a bit from Liz, and also Almir showed me around some of the bits after the interview anyway, just before he did the live stream. You pick which one you prefer more, and for me, getting the chance to interview Almir was a little bit more important than getting the studio tour, because I'd already seen some bits anyway and spoken to different devs across the day between playing the game, seeing Andreas, that kind of thing. Like, I went and chatted to Nico a bit after the Andreas interview. That's why I'm saying, just trying to kind of explain my thoughts. They are very jumbled in my head, and I hope they're coming across in some kind of logical order in this video. But yeah, so by the time it got to about 4, half 4, and the studio tour was going to be kicking off, I was sat down with Almir doing the interview, and we recorded for a good 40 minutes. There was a really good long interview to that. That was just so much fun to record. I mean, we kind of joked a bit about it a few times, about how many times I pestered him on Twitter saying how badly I wanted the interview, because I kept saying it. My community really wanted to see it happen. So it was just a really big moment for me personally to get to have that happen. My big hope going to Sweden, I was like, I really want to play Payday 3, and if I get a chance to make a video with Almir, that'll be perfect. But I'd already played Payday 3 and loved it, spoken to the guy who'd made the trailer and had a lovely chat with him, interviewed the lead producer. The day was just kind of a bit insane, and it was really cool for getting some of the content that I've wanted to do for ages. And I am so fortunate that I got that to happen. I know how lucky I am to be in this position. So for anyone who's thinking that, please do not mistake me. I am well aware of how lucky I was to get the stuff to happen to me that I did. And I will never forget that. The amount of kind of flexibility Andreas and Almir gave me, just giving me even a little bit of their time to do these interviews. They are busy people, and I just can't even begin to express how grateful I am to have the chance to sit with them. I can't say much about the Almir interview, obviously, because that's not out yet, and I want to keep the surprise there for you. But we recorded a more in-depth chat. I had a bit more time with him than I did Andreas, so things like modding that I really wanted to talk to Andreas about, asked Almir about instead, because I figured he'd give a good answer regardless, because he knows that stuff as well. And by that point, Almir had done his stream, and I went back to play a bit more of Payday 3, and that was at the point where I did my solo stealth of the bank heist on normal, getting used to the stealth mechanics and why I managed to take a whole heap of stealth notes down, because that was just amazing. It was such a cool thing to get to experience the stealth and successfully pull off a solo stealth. That was a huge moment, and I am so happy I managed to pull it off. That was big for me. While I was doing the interviews, I know Noli and Marina Top Hat were doing some overkill heists. They discovered the AK was a bit overpowered, and I know Noli was using that in his build, and they were having such a blast. It was cool to come back and hear them talking about the overkill like gameplay, because that's not something I got to do too much. But for me, I'd said to them, I was like, you know, if it means I have to trade in a bit of time playing Payday 3 to get the interviews that I want, I'll happily do that. I don't mind. So I was really grateful to be able to have that chance, and I will not forget that they made that time for me. It was genuinely an amazing thing. But by the time I'd done the solo stealth, we were pretty much at the end of the afternoon. Almir finished his stream off, came outside and took pictures with us. So I'll share a couple of photos now. Myself with Almir, the whole group of us, all together with the Payday 3 standee behind us. It's such an amazing feeling. It genuinely, it still hasn't quite registered, and making this video is helping me process it a little bit, but it was so fantastic. So once we'd all had the photos taken, we went out and we went to a lovely restaurant in the middle of Stockholm. Like I said, my fussy backside was not the best while I was in the restaurant, but you know, I had a bit of cod, which was quite nicely cooked. It was done in, it was like an Asian restaurant, and they cooked it a little bit differently to how I was used to, so it was interesting getting to try something different. And beyond that, we all hung out for a little bit longer, had a good chat about Payday 3, what we thought about it, getting to share our thoughts with the developers and have a bit more of a free-form discussion about it. You know, not all the devs that we'd spoken to, like Jimmy in particular, he was chatting to me quite a lot about Payday 3, he played a couple of lobbies with me, he was lovely, he didn't come out for the meal, but Mio did, Almir did, Tobias Remmers came out, as well as Liz. And so we all got this picture together, which was amazing. Again, it's just such a crazy thing. It's such a crazy thing, getting to have that chance to chat with them, have food, and just share all of like our different stories for making content and our thoughts on Payday 3. It was a brilliant time. We all hung out for a little bit afterwards and then went back to our hotels because it had been a long day, and I in particular was exhausted. I was really tired, so it was nice to kind of get a bit of a chance to have a respite after that, I feel like. We didn't end up going out in the evening, we just kind of sat in the hotel lobby, myself, Mario, and Noli. Pippa and Mort had to go early, and unfortunately I missed saying goodbye to them because I plugged my phone in and went to the toilet, and by the time I'd gone back to my phone, they'd apparently already said goodbye and I missed it, so I'm very annoyed about that. And again, Pippa, Mort, no doubt I'll see you both again and I'll be able to say goodbye properly next time. But yeah, myself, Mario, and Noli, we kind of sat in the hotel lobby, had a bit of a chat about everything, and then signed off the night. It was just genuinely a perfect day. It was an absolutely perfect day, and I will not forget it for a very long time. Not just getting to hang out with the partners, as I've said, not just getting to go to studios, but playing Payday 3, doing the interviews, all hanging out. It's a crazy thing, you know, it's a really crazy opportunity. But just before we went to the restaurant, there was one more cool thing they got to give to us, which was this. A Payday 3 mouse mat. They had these on all of the desks in the office, and because we were the last people to play the press demo, they went, we don't need the mouse mats anymore. If you want to take one each, go for it. So we did. So I'm going to get this on my desk set up soon. I need to retidy my desk and move my mouse mats around. But we'll also put this in the background. There we go. Which is going to be awkward because I'm taking this after the fact because I forgot to mention it. So the next couple of takes will not have that there. So, you know, illusions. But I will also mention while I'm here that I managed to get something a bit extra. Do you know I mentioned earlier in the day there was a notebook that the press were meant to get, but the partners didn't get? Oops. What basically happened was, as we were all coming off our computers and taking the mouse mats, one of the partners, I think it was either Mort or Pippa, pointed out and said, is that your tote bag that you've left behind the computer? And it was right next to where I was playing, so I immediately went, yes, I must have left it there. So I grabbed the tote bag, put it in my rucksack, and went back to the hotel, dropped it off without even a thought. When I went back the Thursday night, I realised in my bag were 2 tote bags. What must have happened was that one of the press who was there the day before had taken this tote bag, they'd taken the mug out of it, that wasn't in the bag, so maybe they'd taken what they wanted and just gone and left the rest behind. But in the tote bag was a notebook. So I inadvertently ended up getting one of them, which was quite nice. So it was a nice little touch, and it really is a beautiful notebook, so I'm glad to have it, and I'm definitely going to use it for any future Payday 3 note-taking with the Dallas mask just kind of, you know, embossed onto it. Very cool. Like that a lot. That's also going to join the pile here, and again, is going to disappear. And then finally for Friday, there's not too much to say because it was pretty much just the trip back home, although it was a little bit sad for a couple of reasons. One of them was because we didn't have a direct flight, we had a layover. I was so out of it with planes that I had to actually DM Liz and ask what a layover meant. That's how long it's been since I've been on a plane. I didn't even know that. Whoops. But we had a layover in Amsterdam. Now, you probably don't know this about me, but one city in Europe that I've always wanted to visit is Amsterdam, because I've seen so many people I know go to the city, talk about it, how much they love it, how much they love the vibe there. So it's one place I've always kind of had on a bucket list to travel to. So knowing that I was going to be there purely for a layover, sucked a tiny little bit. It was kind of like you were on the outside looking in, you were trapped in the airport and couldn't go any further out. Just kind of drives me a bit more to go traveling more. It's what I've said, like, especially going to Stockholm now. There are other places I want to go to. Nolan's talked a bit about Norway. I'd love to visit Oslo. I'd really want to go to Amsterdam. But unfortunately, on top of that, we also had quite a few plane delays and move-arounds. We were originally going to have a layover in Amsterdam and come straight back home. The flight from Stockholm to Amsterdam got delayed by about 2 hours, so Mario and I spent 3 hours-ish in the airport, fully checked through with nothing to do. So I basically sat there and watched Mario make a whole heap of notes that he then made into his video. Because while I taken notes on the day in between playing, he just basically got absorbed into it and took everything down after the fact. And watching him at work, especially drawing the little like diagrams of the menu, because we couldn't share menus obviously, that was so much fun to see, and we just got to talk more about it, and it was really, really lovely. We then got the layover to Amsterdam. We were hanging around in Amsterdam for longer than planned because with the Sweden flight getting moved, we had to get a different flight back to Manchester, and there was more of a time gap in between. But then we got the flight back to Manchester, got back quite late in the evening, and that was why I didn't end up making the Dev Diary video on Friday. I posted on the community tab on Thursday that I was away and couldn't make the video. That was why, as you know, but I had planned to get it up on Friday. I was going to come home, record the reaction, put it straight up, but because we got home so late, I just couldn't manage it. I even was stuck in the airport for about half an hour, 45 minutes, waiting for a train, because we just missed the one I was going to get back home. So I ended up having to sit on the floor of the airport, plugging my phone into the wall and just kind of chilling, waiting. But that's why there's not much to say about Friday, because it was literally just plane delays, longer layovers, and getting home later than planned and not being able to make a video. It was a little sad, but honestly, with everything we'd had on the Wednesday and Thursday, who cares? You know, a couple of layover changes is not really a massive issue. We still had the exact same path home. It was just a bit longer than planned and there was a bit of waiting around. But ladies and gentlemen, that is everything about my trip to Sweden. I've been recording for 48 minutes. There's probably a lot I need to cut down, a lot I need to edit in here, but I just have to say once again to Liz, who set this all up, thank you so much. To everyone that I met, whether it be at interviews with Andreas and Almir, you were both amazing. Nico, you're a lovely guy. Some of the devs, Jimmy, Mio, anyone else can think of, Tobias Remmers, all of you were just lovely. It was just an amazing opportunity. For someone who's made Payday content now for going on 6 years, and, you know, becoming a partner in the last half of those, it's been a crazy thing to see where it's all come to. And getting to play Payday 3 before a lot of other people is a very fortunate situation. I will not forget it for a very, very, very long time. And I am eternally grateful for everything that I managed to do while I was there. I really just can't begin to express it. All I have to say beyond that is to everyone watching this video, thank you, because without your support, without everything that you guys have done watching my content and giving me the platform that I have, this would also never have happened. I genuinely believe that, you know, it's a very fortunate position that I'm in. As I said, I'm one of 3, I feel like, big British creators that are known for Payday. To be standing up there with The Noli and Marina Toppat is a crazy thing to say, and I am never going to forget how fortunate that makes me. I really never, and I'm so grateful for the love and support you've shown over the last few years, but also in the last couple of weeks. I have had one of the biggest months on YouTube ever, and that's not a lie, genuinely, for in every way, shape, and form, so I'm so grateful to all of you. And it almost makes me feel a little bit emotional because I'm just so bloody grateful to all of you. And I will never, ever forget what happened here. I'm so excited at the prospect that maybe this could happen again in the future. Who knows what they've got cooking? Maybe there could be more when Payday 3 comes out. I know nothing about that. So like I said, I don't even know if they're doing a beta. I'm crossing my fingers and hoping, but we'll just see where the road takes us. But as of right now, was everything worth it to get to this point? Yes. Everything has been amazing, and I am so, so grateful. It was literally the perfect trip, and I will never, ever forget it. So thank you all very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this video, this kind of story time thing, to give it a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. Drop a comment if you've got any questions about anything I did there, let me know. And hit that subscribe button if you're new to stay in touch with all future Payday content. Don't forget, tomorrow closes off the week of Payday with my interview with Almir Listo himself. So get excited. It's going to be the big finale, and I'm keen for you all to see it. So until then, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you all soon. Yeah, I'm very, very grateful. That's how I want to end it. I'm very, very grateful. So we close the video with this. Thank you.